Hello, my name is Rusty Clark. Thank you so much for watching. Quick refresh on my big problem from last time. I'm researching the impacts of nature deficit disorder, which is not a technically recognized disorder, but it's a set of symptoms, disruptive symptoms that can occur in children when they do not have access to nature or like proper understanding of nature and a love for nature. So these symptoms are things like increased risk of obesity, increased risk of mental health issues later on in life, decreased senses, their sight and hearing gets messed up. So these are big problems that they're facing later on in life. So through researching my big problem, my role as an educator would primarily be to incentivize and to create a space that is welcoming to talk about nature, to treat it as a resource and also a reward. So knowing what I know now about my big problem, which is nature deficit disorder, and the Bronfenbrenner model and behaviorism, I have a set of plans to try to enact if I had unlimited resources. So considering the Bronfenbrenner model, the idea for the love of nature is going to extend to every system, right? Because they're all going to be impacted if there is a decrease in nature, right? So if, a society without trees it's going to affect every level. So it's important for every level to pay attention. But for a behaviorist theory, my plan is to implement a series of changes where when a child demonstrates a positive or desired behavior, so something like doing all their chores, getting all their homework done on time, doing really well on an exam, being recognized by a school or community for something they've done. Basically any big positive thing. They can take that, they'll be given a little document, and they can take it to whatever national park is nearest them, and they can exchange it for a pass. And that pass lets them go through the whole park, either at a really discounted rate or for free. So that can be like for one day or for the weekend, depending on what's available. And so what that means is children will be excited about going outside, right? It'll be a big reward because they don't typically get to do that. And, the national parks getting in, it's not super expensive, but it's not free most of the time. So it's kind of a big push to want to go. And so the goal there is to incentivize children to view the outdoors as a reward instead of just sort of separate from themselves. And also to help them to perform better in schools. Sorry, my laptop's been glitching out, so that might have just frozen. So that's my whole plan, is to implement a series of changes in which the outdoors is used as a reward instead of a separate entity, and that will involve the parents, the student, obviously, so student, parents, the school system at large, and then you also need to think about the greater community, right? So if you have an environment where you're really separated from nature, if you're in a very urban environment and children don't see a lot of nature, see a lot of, natural elements, they're not going to think of it as something that's very important. So it affects every level of the ecological system.